Welcome to Fearless with Jason Whitlock. I am Jason Whitlock, your host. Happy Monday. Do I look disheveled? This is my Ball State. I've been unpacking things at Ball State pullover. I've been unpacking things at my home and, finding the clothes I haven't been wearing that have been in boxes. And this is one of my favorite pullovers. I'm glad I'm wearing it today. It looks really good, I think. I hope. You guys tell me. Anyway, happy Monday. Thank you so much for joining me. We have an awesome show planned for you today. We're going to get into the National Football League, a little college football, a little Cam Newton, a little more Joy Taylor, a little Mike Tomlin. We're going to get into a lot of good stuff today, and I'm glad you're here for the ride. First thing I need you guys to do is make sure you're joining the Fearless Mission by visiting our site, fearlessmission.com. Use the promo code FEARLESS. You can save $20 on your yearly subscription. Gives you access to everything we do here with Fearless, everything we do at The Blaze, and it's a great way to keep up with everything that I'm doing. And so, including, and I'll probably get into this a little bit later in the show at some point, I'll make some time to make sure that I'm getting you guys up to date, but the details for Roll Call 3.0 will be released in full tomorrow. It's going to be amazing. I'm just going to say it's going to be amazing. I got my man Tucker Carlson's coming through for me big time, coming through for us big time. It's going to be amazing. You're going to want to be there May 2nd and May 3rd. But I'll go into a little bit more detail later in the show. And then tomorrow we'll have everything on a website. And Pastor Corey Brooks, Pastor Bishop McLaughlin down in Jacksonville, Doug Wilson in Idaho, Wisconsin, Doug Wilson in Idaho, Moscow, Idaho, all going to be here. Anyway, I'm going to save that. I'm going to give you guys what you come to expect here on the show, particularly on a Monday after an incredible football weekend, in ways we look around the biggest football story, in my view, coming off this weekend. Mike Tomlin, and it's what the conversation around Mike Tomlin, the Pittsburgh Steelers coach. And it's Mike Tomlin coupled with what happened to Gerard Mayo, the former football head coach of the New England Patriots. And it's Mike Tomlin coupled with what's going on with Aaron Glenn, the defensive coordinator of the Detroit Lions. And it's Mike Tomlin coupled with the conversation that the national media, key influencers have around black coaches in the National Football League. It's a stupid conversation. And the entire Rooney Rule and the NFL's leaning into DEI is blowing up in everyone's face. It's blowing up in everyone's face. Can you not see it? That and this is how, and again, this is Tomlin, this is Mayo, this is Aaron Glenn, this is a system that NFL ownership has figured out, oh, okay, they're forcing this Rooney Rule thing on us. We have leadership at the very top of the National Football League. I'm talking about Roger Goodell and Troy Vincent, that are idiots and have talked us into this Rooney Rule thing that doesn't work and puts ownership in a bad spotlight every single offseason. And it puts a target on black coaches, and it puts training wheels on even the most successful black coaches. So everybody has to walk on eggshells around them. And so no one can comfortably have the conversation that should be being had about Mike Tomlin, the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. No one can have the appropriate conversation about Gerard Mayo and why he was dusted after 1 year. And no one can have the appropriate conversation about Aaron Glenn and why he and the offensive coordinator of the Detroit Lions are the two highest profile head coaching candidates in the National Football League this offseason. So let me walk you through why DEI and the Rooney Rule have been a failure, continue to be a failure, and now the failure is just becoming more and more obvious. Because you're not going to make a group of billionaires bend to your will. Not forever, not for very long. And billionaire owners of the NFL have figured out, hey, I know the workaround to this Rooney Rule. We can just hire some sketchy qualified black assistant who we're comfortable with and give him a one-season shot. Hey, scurry on out there, produce some magic instantly, or we'll dust you after a year and we'll move on to the next guy. And yes, that dusting may cost me $20 million. I may sign you to a 4-year, $20 million deal, 4-year, $30 million deal. And I may have to cover all of that. But I'm a billionaire. And I'm a billionaire at a time when the stock market and the whole system has been rigged in a way over the last 4 to 5 years that my wealth has doubled and tripled over the last 2 to 3 years. That I went from being worth $1.5 billion to $6 billion, to $10 billion. There's been this great transfer of wealth to the billionaire class. They made so much money during the COVID scandemic and the whole shutdown of the stock market and then the re-elevation of the stock market. And look at the stock price. Their wealth has doubled, tripled, quadrupled, I don't know, quintupled. What comes after that? Sextupled, seventupled? I don't even know. But they're all worth far more money than they used to be. And so cutting a $30 million check to Gerard Mayo to say, hey, buddy, thanks for your effort here for a year. We figured out you can't coach. Now I'm going to move on and hire the coach that I really want. And this is now the new norm in the National Football League, and it applies to all coaches, black, white, whatever. People will tweet out, oh, black coaches don't get a chance. They get 1 year and then they're fired. And then someone will come with the facts, and this is what I love about the new X platform. They community note these idiots right into oblivion. But someone tweeted out a string of 5 or 6 black coaches that got fired after a year. And then the community notes came and they said, well, here's 6, 7 white coaches that either got less than a year or got 1 year as well. This is the new normal in the National Football League. A coach gets 1 year. And if he's not prepared to produce some magic in that first year, he's dusted. And so what Robert Kraft and the Patriots were able to do here is, hey, we'll put Gerard Mayo in. We have this opening press conference where Gerard Mayo makes a fool out of himself. The owner sits there and says, hey, man, I try to operate in a colorblind way. And the new coach he just empowered and hired said, I like to see race because if you can't see race, you can't see racism. And I said this then. Go check the tapes. I was like, he ain't on the same page with ownership. This is not off to a good start. Because an owner or anybody that runs an organization, a business, they've purchased, they've built, they've developed, they get to hire employees, particularly at the top, that reflect their values. If you've ever been an owner of anything, let's say you're Jimmy Whitlock, my father, a little ghetto businessman, a mom and pop tavern in inner city Indianapolis. You know what he got to hire? People who reflected his values. See, my father and his friends used to love to drink Crown Royal. And so you know what he didn't do? He didn't hire barmaids or bar managers who hated Crown Royal. Or, I don't like serving Crown Royal. My father, well, get your monkey ass up out of here. Because we serve Crown Royal here. That's what we do. We also serve Hennessy and some of these other things, but we damn sure gonna serve Crown Royal because that's what I like. And so every barmaid from Debbie, oh my God, why am I having a brain fart? I hope she's not watching. Her sister bailed my dad out. Anyway, this is so embarrassing. One of my favorite people on the whole planet. But anyway, I can't name, but they all like serving Crown Royal because that's what ownership liked. And so everybody just hopped on board with my father's values. And you know what? They all liked Bobby Blue Bland. They all liked Al Green because that's the music they played at the Masterpiece. See, when you're the owner, that's the benefit of being an owner. You get to hire people to reflect your values. And so the DEI crowd has been trying to convince ownership, no, you need to hire people that don't reflect your values, that won't represent your worldview, that won't reflect your leadership style. That's diversity, equity, and inclusion. That's tolerance. Well, ownership gives you the right to be intolerant when it comes to leadership that doesn't reflect your values. Who wants to build up, own a business, and then turn it over to people that don't share your values? And the only people making the argument that that's what should be required are people that have no idea and never want to be an owner. They don't ever want to be a shot caller. They just want to be a beggar and a complainer. So Robert Kraft and NFL ownership has said, well, we'll just come up with a system where we give everybody a one-year tryout plan, and then we dust them if we don't like them. And so basically they just do this revolving door at coach until they strike a pot of gold. And the pot of gold is like, it's an Andy Reid. It's a Dan Campbell. It's a Kyle Shanahan. It's a Sean McVay. It's give me my list of coaches that, you know, there's about 8. Yeah, there we go. It's John and Jim Harbaugh. It's Sean Payton. It's Kevin O'Connell. That's my class of elite 8 coaches that right now would be considered untouchable, and everybody's looking to hire a coach that's one of those 8 guys. And then there's this other group they're all, and Mike Tomlin used to be in that first 8, now he's not. But this is the other group that it's like, hey, if I can hire a guy that can get into this group, I'm good. I'm gonna give this guy time. I'm gonna be patient with him. Mike Tomlin, Nick Sirianni, DeMeco Ryan, Dan Quinn, Matt LaFleur, Sean McDermott. So there's about 14 coaching spots in the NFL that are secure, that aren't on a year-to-year renewal basis. Those first 14 guys I just listed, they can survive a 6-11 season, a 7-10 season. They can even survive a 5-12 season. But everybody else, the 18 other coaches in the NFL, one bad year and they get dusted. And the owner cuts them a check for whatever else he owes them, and then he gets to go out and try to strike gold and hire who the hell he wants. And so what you can do if you're Robert Kraft is like, okay, I've just had Bill Belichick here for 20 plus years. Everybody's up my yin-yang. Bill Belichick is done. Me and Bill don't get along. Well, if I don't hire a black coach, the media is going to rip me and say I'm racist. And it doesn't matter how many Meek Mill concerts I sponsor. It doesn't matter how many times I'm caught grinding on Cardi B. It doesn't matter how many woke boxes I check. If I don't hire a black coach, I'm racist. So he hired Gerard Mayo, a guy that wasn't on the same page with him, a guy that he really didn't do the right amount of due diligence on. Black guy, loyal, allegedly. And I get to hire him. And if he makes a mess, let's say we go 4-13. Man, that's going to be a high draft pick. And now I get to circle back and hire whoever the hell I want. And that's how you get with Mike Vrabel. And that's Mike Vrabel's walking into a deal where Patriots feel like they have their quarterback. They have another high draft pick to perhaps pair this quarterback with some more offensive talent. And now I got my guy, Mike Vrabel, who I really wanted. And no one can call me racist. That's the system that they've built to defeat DEI and the Rooney Rule. And so get used to it. The same system the Houston Texans executed. What did they do 3 hires in a row? I think they started with the dude. No, they started with Lovie Smith because, oh boy, and maybe even started before. It was Romeo Crennel. They had him for a hot cup of coffee. Then they had Lovie Smith for a hot cup of coffee. Then they had David Culley for a hot cup of coffee. And then, boom, they hit. They hit their lottery ticket, they feel, with DeMeco Ryan. We'll see. Right now, he's in that second tier of coaches that, yeah, he can survive a losing season. He's good. But that is the new scenario to defeat DEI and the Rooney Rule. We'll give people a 1-year chance. Anybody can deal with an incompetent coach for a year, and hell, we'll tank and get a good draft pick. And so no one will ever be able to say, hey, Robert Kraft never gave a black coach a head chance. Yes, I did. I hired Gerard Mayo. Now I've got Mike Vrabel, and he's hoping that for the next 10 years, he doesn't have to think about hiring a new head coach. He feels like Vrabel is going to catapult into that same group with the top 8 guys, where they're basically untouchable, and no one will ever complain that they haven't been fired. That's the new status quo in the NFL. And Mike Tomlin, I will say, from my point of view, and I've been someone who has been open to the conversation that Mike Tomlin is overrated. I have not been open to the conversation that Mike Tomlin needs to be fired. But I have no problem with anybody. You can go back to Terry Bradshaw coming on Speak for Yourself years ago and saying, you know, Mike Tomlin's no kind of coach. He doesn't have much respect for him. I'm open to that conversation. I was never a part of it like, hey, he's got to be fired. But now that we're further down the road, I think it's appropriate to ask the question if Mike Tomlin should be fired. What is it now? They haven't won a playoff game in 8 years? You know, they don't seem to be making any progress. It seems to be a year-to-year mediocrity thing where, hey, every year we're going to float right around 500 and everybody's going to run on TV and says, Mike Tomlin's never had a losing season. But now it's appropriate to say, has he reached his expiration date in Pittsburgh? And it seems like people, players, other prognosticators, pontificators in the sports, everybody's now ready to have that conversation. Let's play, I believe it's Shady McCoy, LaShawn McCoy, talking about Mike Tomlin. He expressed the idea that I believe, that like Mike Tomlin needs that great reset, the same one Andy Reid hit. Play the clip.
when you first heard it, you're like, hell no, Mike. Ain't no hot seat. One of the best coaches in football, you know, et cetera, et cetera. Has been an OG in a long time and takes any team to the playoffs, no matter how bad the quarterback play is. But when I sit here and I start looking at the stats, right? You say it's 8-10 in the playoffs. That's not winning. The last time they had a win is 2016, right? I said, hold on, I was still playing then. So they have it, they go to playoffs, but they don't win at all. Still playing. But you know, I thought about it. I was talking to this GM, I won't say his name, and we were arguing. I hate when I get real offended when you talk about Andy Reid in a certain light. And with the Eagles, when we fired Andy Reid, I was so mad. So I'm talking to this GM, he said, yeah, man, Andy was great, but you know, his time has passed in Philadelphia. When we had to go in a different direction.
Not saying he's a bad coach.
He said, not for the team, but more for him.
Fresh start.
And when he said, you know what? That makes sense. I truly think that Coach Tomlin is one of the best coaches in football. But I think it's time in Pittsburgh, I think it should be over, right, if they don't win, right? No, but hear what I'm saying. I think he goes to another team, a new start, an Andy Reid new start, and gets that old Mike Tomlin back going on because I think he's a championship type of coach. I think he's a playoff type of coach. And sometimes, right, the relationship is over. It's not working the same way like it used to work. I think you put him on another team, right, another start, fresh start, I think he has the same type of impact like Andy Reid. And it's not saying he's a bad coach, just that right now the coach, his relationship, and his team are not working out.
So I agree with him overall. I disagree on the details. I think it's optimistic to say he'll have the same impact on another team that Andy Reid had on the Kansas City Chiefs. Very optimistic to say that. And I say that because Andy Reid and quarterback play, wherever he's been, even as an assistant and now as a head coach, when Donovan McNabb looked great, Michael Vick looked great, Alex Smith looked great, Patrick Mahomes looks like a GOAT candidate. Everywhere Andy Reid has gone, great quarterback play has gone along with him. I don't know what Mike Tomlin, where you can say, well, Mike Tomlin every year in Pittsburgh, they did what? Played great defense? Is Tomlin seen as the architect of that, or was that Dick LeBeau and the Dick LeBeau tradition? Great quarterback play? That was Ben Roethlisberger. No one was saying that Mike Tomlin was the Ben Roethlisberger whisperer. So I don't. Mike Tomlin's calling card is attitude and tone, mostly at a press conference. He's a great press conference guy. But if you look at the history of that Pittsburgh organization and how that they have an organizational philosophy that it's not reliant on a coach. The organization, the Rooneys, have a philosophy that has ruled over that organization for 50 years or maybe even longer. They've only had 3 coaches, basically, as long as I've been alive: Chuck Noll, Bill Cowher, and Mike Tomlin. And it's run from an organizational perspective. The way the draft is done, the head coach isn't all powerful. So maybe Mike Tomlin takes that Pittsburgh organizational structure to another franchise or finds a similar setup where the organization's that strong. But I'm not so sure. But do I think it's time for him to move on and try to reinvent himself someplace else? Does he deserve that opportunity? Would some franchise be honored to have him? And would it be a good hire? Yes, it would. But the whole DEI protection policy and plan, it's over for Mike Tomlin. You're not going to just be able to run around and scream racism if the Pittsburgh Steelers move on from Mike Tomlin. No different there are people right now that want to scream racism over Gerard Mayo. They're silly and stupid. There's no substance to what they're saying. Until I hear players in New England or even broadcasters or people offering up these opinions saying, hey, I've talked to players in New England who are irate. How dare they let Gerard Mayo go, oh, this man was amazing. Till I hear that, I ain't buying none of it. These are just people flapping their gums over Twitter or X or whatever and looking for to put some victim status on somebody. Say, oh, God, look how hard it is for the black man. We're not hearing New England Patriots players stand up or even, man, I heard their whole locker room's really upset about them moving on from Gerard Mayo. How do you think these decisions get made? I mean, I know you just think that Robert Kraft and ownership just sit up in a suite in a skybox and pull this stuff out of their rear end. I know you caught the jokes about Woody Johnson and him making decisions over Madden ratings. And that's a dog doo-doo organization, the Jets. The Patriots aren't a dog doo-doo organization. They actually, like most ownership, they actually talk to their players that they trust in that locker room to get their point of view on, hey, what's going on here? Is this coach any good? And that's feedback. That's what gets a Gerard Mayo clipped. When the players within that organization, when trusted assistant coaches, and they got stories to back up what that man, when he did this, I was like, holy cow, I've never seen a head coach do this, blah, blah, blah. He was so unprepared, blah, blah, blah. That's what gets a coach clipped in year one. And that's why Gerard Mayo got clipped. You know why? Because he didn't fit the blueprint. I'm going to show you who fits the blueprint. And he's got 4 or 5 teams beating down his door. And this is what we never really hear about as it relates to who have been the best black coaches in the history of the National Football League. It would be Tony Dungy, Mike Tomlin, Lovie Smith. What was their blueprint? To me, it sounded a lot like Aaron Glenn's blueprint, the defensive coordinator with the Detroit Lions. I saw this on the Pivot podcast with Ryan Clark, where Aaron Glenn was talking about, and he's a former great NFL player, had a nice NFL career, and then took the path of trying to be an NFL head coach very seriously. He didn't come in with a sense of entitlement of, hey, I'm a former great player, someone should fast track me to be a head coach. This man started from the bottom because he had a real plan. Let's play SOT number 1, Aaron Glenn talking about his path to becoming a potential head coach.
And it's a saying I always say, I didn't stick my toe in the water to see if it was cold. I jumped right on in there. Right, and I scouted, in-house scout with the Jets a couple of years, then I went on the road. I was driving for hours, right, college scouting. Then I went right to being an assistant DB coach. I did my QC thing, because I want to make sure I didn't miss one step. I want to start from the bottom. I told everybody I was there, don't treat me any different than anybody else, right? Because I want to understand everything there is about the scouting process. I want to know everything about being a QC. I want to know everything about being an assistant coach, all right, to a lead DB coach, to a defense coordinator I am right now, right? And I'm hoping to be a head coach at some point.
This is the advice that needs to be given to young people, regardless of color, but particularly young black people. Prepare yourself for success. Don't entitle your way to success. This young people, and this black, white, green, whatever, they all want to be instantly at the top of the food chain. They all want to know how they can cut in line. Aaron Glenn didn't want to cut in line. He wanted to prepare himself for greatness. And that's what he did. And that's why he can have his pick of 4 or 5 NFL jobs, because what he's done here in Detroit, particularly this year with all the injuries he's faced on the defensive side of the football, it's him and Ben Johnson, Detroit's offensive coordinator. These are the 2 hottest coaching prospects in all of football. And Aaron Glenn sounds like Lovie Smith did on his way up. Mike Tomlin did on his way up. Tony Dungy did on his way up. Paid his dues and prepared. Hey, he may fail, But it won't be for a lack of preparation. It won't be because the man didn't execute a game plan. And this is, they anointed Gerard Mayo, put it in writing. You're the head coach in waiting and blah, blah, blah. They anointed Gerard Mayo. And then he blew up in their face. This man, Aaron Glenn, prepared himself for success, and now he's about to get a great opportunity, a well-earned opportunity. And then there'll be the guys that will be somewhere complaining about racism, be somewhere, I can't get a shot, I can't get a chance. That's all BS. You can get a shot, you can get a chance. Prepare yourself for it. They can't wait to give it to you. All of this nonsense, they just don't want to see a black man and they want to see someone that looks like them. No, man, they want to see somebody that reflects their values and has a leadership approach that they agree with. They want to see somebody like Aaron Glenn, who seems to be in a good personal relationship, long-standing relationship with his wife, being settled at home and not being riddled with baby mama drama. That will get you in trouble. And I'm not saying that was Gerard Mayo's problems, but we talk about how come they can't get jobs. Man, if you're a former player who's went into coaching, but you got 3 or 4 baby mamas, you're not as prepared to be a head coach as a guy that's in a settled relationship and doesn't have all that personal life turmoil. You can then prepare. It's no different. It's like I'm on the other side of this, where because of my lack of preparation, because of not being married and settled and having all that home stuff taken care of, it's a harder road for me when I decided, hey, I got to go independent media. I got to go off here on my own. And I have to start working harder now in my 50s than I did when I was in my 30s. So it's a harder road. And I can sit around here and point a finger and blame, blah, blah, blah. But guys at my age need to be fully settled in, when you're renovating the house, you need to hand that over to your wife so you can continue to focus on what you have to do at work and not be trying to multitask. And so I've chosen a much harder path because not as smart as Aaron Glenn and these other people that prepare for long-term success, long-term sustainable success. Everything I'm talking about here, a lot of it applies to me, and it sounds like I'm just wagging a finger at other people. I'm wagging it at all of us. There are steps as men we must take to prepare ourselves for success. And if we haven't done that, quit blaming racism and everybody else. Look in the mirror and blame yourself. Just wanted to get that off my chest. And I did. And so that's my take on Mike Tomlin. That's my take on Gerard Mayo. That's my take on Aaron Glenn. When we come back, I'm going to bring my boy Steve Kim into the discussion. And we'll talk about Cam Newton. We'll talk about RG3 had a stupid tweet on Justin Herbert. A.J. Brown's reading a book on the sidelines. I found that interesting. Saquon Barkley took a knee instead of scoring a touchdown. The Penn State Notre Dame TV ratings were low. We want to know why. And then I found an interesting video, Joy Taylor talking about Jeff Saturday back in 2022 that didn't age real well. So don't go anywhere. Steve Kim just around the corner. And before I get to Steve Kim, I want to talk to you guys about someone I'm so glad is jumping on board with this program and Fearless. Relief Factor. If pain is affecting your life, I have the perfect New Year's resolution for you. Make your 2025 the year of feeling good again, the year of moving better, sleeping better, feeling more alive, and do it with Relief Factor. Relief Factor is a daily supplement that fights pain naturally. Developed by doctors, it doesn't just mask pain temporarily, it helps reduce or eliminate pain. Over 1 million people have turned to Relief Factor. Feel the difference it can make in your life. Give their 3-week quick start a try. It's only $19.95, less than $1 a day, and it just takes a phone call. 1-800-4RELIEF. That's 1-800-4RELIEF. You can start feeling better in 3 weeks or less, and every day you feel better is a day you live better. Wherever you are, hurting, back, neck, joints, or muscles, make 2025 the year of feeling good again. Try Relief Factor's 3-week quick start today. Visit relieffactor.com or call 1-800-4RELIEF. That's 1-800-4RELIEF. Steve Kim, X.
ESPN sucks.
He should, in my opinion, as a brotherhood, he should never play again.
Ever again?
Ever again? Why would you want him on your team?
So you're going to judge him in his... I have a hard time judging a man in his worst moment. It's been worse atrocities that happened on a football team than him refusing to go in. So Deontay Johnson should never play again.
I don't think so, no.
Okay.
Why would I want him on my team?
And talk about Dak, because I can show you just how much he is struggling.
Don't do that. No. Nah, I quit.
Dak Prescott,
Nope.
Tad is
yesterday,
not going to like this
on
one.
3rd and 4th downs, his numbers
Tad is not gonna
were the
be
worst
happy.
we have seen from any quarterback since Tim Tebow. Ryan Clark is walking out of the studio. The numbers are what the numbers are.
Before people think I'm going to get up here and say, oh, Aaron Rodgers is egotistical, oh, Aaron Rodgers is arrogant, Aaron Rodgers would be right to be the vice presidential candidate. You know why? Because who wouldn't? I would. Right, so that's the thing, though, L, right? So they can't go to Tua Tagovailoa and say this is what's going to happen.
Sure, because it could be something that doesn't show up for
Yes.
many, many years, and I understand that. But that's why I'm asking, hindsight being 2020 and knowing what you know now about CTE and how it impacts former players, would you go back in time and make a different decision?
Me?
Yes.
Hell no.
And that's why ESPN sucks.
Yeah, 모두 다 빨리 박수 쳐 기다리지 말고 서둘러 Reason that I'm back is to feed you raps I see that you are 배불러 So fly
All right, welcome back. Time for some Steve Kim. Steve, the Korean Cosell, welcome back to the show. Steve, I want to start with Mike Tomlin. It seems now everybody thinks it's appropriate to talk about whether Mike Tomlin should be retained in Pittsburgh. Appropriate timing now, or we're 2-3 years late?
Jason, I think we're at the stage where the discussion now begins starting from next season. I think realistically, Pittsburgh cannot and will not let him go. But there is an obvious decline in terms of production. I mean, Jason, they're in the worst spot an NFL team can be. They're not terrible to a point where you say, okay, let's just blow it up and rebuild. And they're not elite. I looked at the last 6-7 years outside of one season. They're either between 8 or 10 victories, which means you're either the best of the mediocre or you're the mediocre of the best. And as you pointed out, the last time they won a playoff game was 2016. And when we look at this, Ben Roethlisberger has been horribly underrated because since his inevitable decline and then since his departure, it's just been kind of this revolving door of quarterbacks, draft choices that didn't work out, older veterans that kind of leveled off. And it turns out, for as much problems as he may have given you, certain issues, every head coach basically needs to hitch their wagon to a quarterback. Now, maybe Andy Reid creates those quarterbacks out of an assembly line, but it's funny reading a Twitter timeline when it relates to Tomlin. There's a lot of Steeler fans now that are starting to put him on the clock.
You said something at the top of that I found baffling. Cannot let him go? Why can't the Pittsburgh
Well,
Steelers let
I
him
think
go?
there's a pressure. If you look at the history, well, they can in theory, but if you look at the way the Rooney family runs that franchise, they are more apt to keep a coach longer than they are shorter. Look at the history since Chuck Noll. Chuck Noll had a long run. Bill Cowher had a long run. And I don't know if the Rooneys have the type of gumption to say, Mike, you've been good, but you've been declining. I mean, this is a team that's had 3 coaches in about, 45, 50 years? This is not George Steinbrenner in the 80s. There's no revolving door when it comes to them.
Steve, you're acting like Mike Tomlin has had a long run is a sentence that can't be spoken. Hasn't his run been longer than Bill Cowher's?
It has. And the issue is, though, and this is a very tough conversation, who do you get to replace him that's better? As dissatisfying as these years have been, who do you get that? There's no guarantee you're going to upgrade here, Jason. Who's your Dan Campbell then, right off the bat? Who's your guy?
Well, you know what? Just retire from life, because life is a risk. It's a series of decisions that all have risk.
Then you know what? All right. Now that we're on this discussion, I got the solution. This way you keep everybody happy. You keep the hardcore Steeler fans that are disgruntled happy with the change, and you get certain people that love those 3 letters that they live by. You keep them happy. Hire Aaron Glenn. There you go. Now, there's a guy who's deserving. He checks all the boxes. He's worked his way up. Aaron Glenn, fine. If you're going to make a change, go with Aaron Glenn. There you go.
Well, I just don't think you make. I don't think you make decisions. Let's say, not to stereotype, Steve, but let's say that you own a cleaners.
No, liquor store.
A liquor store.
Don't halfway this. Go liquor store. I know you're going with the laundromat, but still.
Liquor store. Yeah. And you had a good manager, but you were like, hey, man, I'm expecting great results. Would you just, I'm going to stick with this good manager, because I might hire a new manager who's not as good? Or would you, as the Korean liquor store, want to say, hey, I want some more of this Hennessy flying off the rack. I know just the guy that can do it, or I'm going to find just the guy that can do it.
Obviously, you don't know the dynamics of American Korean-owned businesses. That would mean firing one of your relatives. Okay, so that's a little bit dicey. That gets a little bit uncomfortable and inconvenient. But, Jason, realistically, this is what I think with the Rooneys. These are very stable people, very successful, and very measured. In all fairness, I believe that the conversation with Tomlin now begins starting next year. Like, Mike, you got to start to deliver in January. That's my view, that I don't believe his job's in jeopardy. I believe there's some conjecture. There is some conflicting opinions on the point of diminishing returns. But to fire him, just say, well, it's okay. Okay, but who is your next guy, though? Who is that next guy?
Well, that's your job to figure it out. It's no different. Look, Tiffany, when this show's over, is going to bring me something to eat. I don't have to tell. She's going to figure it out. That's her job. I'm not. It's not some big like, oh my God, I can't figure it out. Whitlock, what should I give him to eat? Well, he'll eat almost anything. It's her job to figure it out. Okay. I just, you make it sound like these guys are curing cancer. They're picking football coach. And if it doesn't, if it doesn't work out, you just fire the guy and move on to the next one. And the Steelers, because they've given this guy 20 years, they can do whatever they want. They've given a black coach 20 years.
They have, but he's also been a pretty good one, though. Let's not make it sound like he's Antonio Daniels or Jared Mayo. Okay, let's be a little bit fair about this. They're not all in the same bucket. He's been highly successful. I would argue that he'd probably be a Hall of Fame caliber coach. Those don't grow on trees, but I do think starting now that there is a pressure on Tomlin to do a little bit better or advance a little bit further in the NFL tournament.
Hey, Steve, let me break some news to you.
Yeah, please do. Please.
There's a coach that won 6 Super Bowls. 6 Super Bowls.
Yeah.
Who got fired. Just last year.
Yeah.
And now a guy with 1 is untouchable?
Right.
If you can fire Bill Belichick,
I didn't say untouchable. I didn't call him Elliot Ness. He's not untouchable, but there's some context here. Bill Belichick's record had swooned post Tom Brady. Okay, also, I didn't realize this. Tomlin's only 52. See, I don't completely disagree with you. Tomlin may need a reset at another franchise. I didn't realize he was still only 52. I thought he was like in his late 50s, early 60s. No longer does he look like Omar Epps, but he still looks pretty good for his age. Maybe it is true. It doesn't crack. But again, you're making it sound like it's a black or white issue. I think the Steelers have to start to put a little bit more of the heat. But no, I do not think he's on the hot seat.
When legends like Jack Lambert are tweeting out, the man's got to go. I just, people that actually live and breathe Pittsburgh football, and look, maybe Jack Lambert is, a KKK member and couldn't stand Mike Tomlin from the beginning, and who knows, right? So, literally, because these old white guys, they criticize the coach. Well, it must be racism. But seriously, Jack Lambert, it's not like Terry Bradshaw. These guys love Pittsburgh and love the Steelers. They're like, hey, man, Jack Lambert said, like, this team hasn't been well coached for more than a decade. That carries some weight with me. Yeah. And the Rooneys have to know that, hey, man, that's just not some football player going off half-cocked. This is someone that actually loves Pittsburgh, the Steelers.
I cannot disagree with that, and I will defer to Jack Lambert's knowledge of football. Okay, that's the type of person I am. All right. But I really think that the Rooneys are incredibly patient. Okay, and you may think that's a pejorative. I'm just telling you the reality. I don't think from what their history has been that right now that the seat is hot. It may be getting warmer, but it's not scorching yet.
I'm going to move on. I've beaten that dead horse.
You sure have.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to a horse I was beating up last week, Cam Newton, before I turn a little bit more to this weekend. Cam Newton, I just found this hilarious. Cam Newton, I'm not that Jason Whitlock, you're not that guy, pal, and he's standing up for Joy Taylor, and now he's tweeting out how great Molly Karam is, and blah, blah, blah. And someone said, hey, Jay, you remember Cam Newton talking crazy to this female reporter just a few years ago? Let's play that clip. This is shot for Cam Newton laughing because a woman is asking him about pass routes. Play the clip.
I know you take a lot of pride in seeing your receivers play well. Devin Funchess has seemed to really embrace the physicality of his routes and getting those extra yards. Does that give you a little bit of an enjoyment to see him kind of truck sticking people out there?
It's funny to hear a female talk about routes. Like, it's funny.
Did ESPN put Cam through the re-education program? Is he now a feminist and thinks female broadcasters are the greatest thing since sliced bread? Or is he just doing whatever is possible to survive and remain relevant now that he's never going to play football again?
Probably all of that, and he probably did not realize there's this thing called Google. Here's my message to Cam. My guy. No. You're not my guy. Come on. The thing that is interesting about what he said about you, and by the way, a lot of reaction videos to all the content creators, thumbs up whether you agree or disagree with this, but Cam really showed what a simpleton he is. Jason, you never really said, hey, back in my younger days, I was heavy D, but looked like Denzel Washington or Tyson Beckford. The overall thing was, it was about power, leverage, and influence, and how do people react to it? Are they predatory with that power, or are they benevolent with it and just leave people alone? In 2 words, Harvey Weinstein. He didn't make the cover of GQ the last I checked. He was pulling a lot of pee because of why? The power, leverage, and influence. And the fact that any guy does not understand why it was dangerous that allegedly, I'm going to use the word allegedly here, Cam, look it up, that the default defense of Joy Taylor was going to be, well, in my back pocket, I have a Me Too card. Every man with any type of influence, power, or riches should be deathly afraid of that. The fact that he could not understand that, I think, I hate to say it, shows that he's still a dumb jock. My guy. Anyway.
You go dumb jock. I'm going to go, it's the same, but it's a different word. He's a horny jock. And that's all Cam thinks with his smallest head, and he wants to keep everything in play, from Joy Taylor to Molly Karam. He just wants it all available if necessary. Did you see the video he put out, and Molly Karam commented on it? Thank you, Cam, or whatever. He put out a video, talking about how now he can see Molly Karam. She's a beast. She's a beast. Set it teeing up Ryan Clark and Stephen A. Smith and Shannon Sharp. You just don't understand how incredible Molly Karam is. She's a beast at this job. And I was like, look at Cam. He wants to make sure them text messages or DMs get answered if he decides to hop in Molly Karam's DM.
Or those DMs never get revealed. I mean, let's be honest about this. I'm going to go here. Cam Newton has never come up to a woman because of her football intellect or because he wanted to talk sports. In the immortal words of the great philosophers, Belle Biv DeVoe, just a big butt and a smile. That's what he was for. And then by the way, that is fine. Do you think, how many kids does he have by different baby mamas? At least 3 or 4, right? Do you think any of them have his seed because of their intellect? Let's just be all the way out there. And this applies to a lot of guys, probably all of us. When we see a woman, we're like, whew. We have a visceral reaction, okay? But none of us ever think, wow, I wonder what she thinks of the dig route out of a trips formation. You know Cam doesn't, because he'd giggle at that girl. So let's be honest about it. So Cam's saying that all of a sudden we have to respect women for their intellect. Really, have you ever, and Cam, you had a lot of options. You were a good strapping, handsome fella, right? Especially before the hats. You had your choice. You had your choice of a lot. You never chose one for their IQ. And you know what? Most guys are like that. Let's be honest about this.
Let me throw in something I didn't prepare you for, and I apologize. Yes. But on this weekend when I'm having these thoughts about Cam and Molly Karam, and people are upset with me at what I've said about these female talk show hosts, did you watch the Amazon Prime NFL playoff game on Saturday?
Yeah,
I believe it was the night game. What was the night game? Was that the Chargers? And
that was the afternoon game.
Pittsburgh and Baltimore. Pittsburgh and Baltimore. And one of the things I've had to acknowledge after this complete full season, and I know I didn't prepare you for this, I don't know how much you watched, but Amazon Prime's NFL studio show, led by Carissa Thompson, is the best NFL show we have going right now. And I have to admit that is the closest thing we have right now to the vibe and the energy of inside the NBA. And I've been a fan and friendly with Carissa Thompson. I hate to say that because now she'll get in trouble for me liking her. But but I've never been a fan of Richard Sherman. And I have to say, I love Richard Sherman on this show. And it's like all these guys have a little role. Tony Gonzalez is the too cool for school guy. Ryan Fitzpatrick is kind of the class clown. And Andrew Whitworth is kind of the smart offensive lineman that's got a good sense of humor and probably comes off like a good dad. And Richard Sherman is kind of the Barkley type character on there. I'm amazed at how well that show is. And I got to give credit. Carissa Thompson kind of plays the Ernie Johnson role at a high level.
Okay, so I'll be honest about it. I did watch the game, but as soon as it goes to halftime, I'm going on YouTube and watching the latest Charleston White interview. I just can't help it. I just cut out the fat nowadays. But what I've seen, I like. But your key phrase, Carissa Thompson plays Ernie Johnson. She's not trying to be the Jet. She's not trying to be Charles Barkley. She certainly is not trying to be Shaquille O'Neal. The ladies, no matter how they look, in my view, they are effective and can work as the point guard. Just be John Stockton. Get the ball in the right places on the floor to the shooters and scorers. Get out of the way. You're the traffic director. Then you start all over again. I do think there's an issue, though, when you have NFL quarterbacks on there and you have some female breaking down a cover 3 or a robber technique. Bandit coverage, like, okay, no, get out. Carissa Thompson stays in her lane and she drives in it well.
Jason, do you guys, and Steve, do y'all really think this is the best NFL sort of hosting show, or has everything else just gotten that stale? Because it's not a cast of characters that everybody really loves, but it just feels like everything else has just gotten so bad.
I agree with that sentiment that the show is beating up a bunch of midgets. And NFL on Fox used to be a show that was very enjoyable, but I think it's gotten stale. It's too many people on there. Yeah, and they got a little too corporate, but good show. But I do think this show is better. ESPN, when Randy Moss started crying about rubber lips or whatever, I was like, I'm just done. I can't do it. And who they replaced the woman with? Mike Greenberg or what? CBS. I can't. Nate Burleson drives me nuts, and Initially, I thought I would like him, but Nate is another one of these. He tries to come across like Tony Gonzalez, too cool for school, but he ain't Tony Gonzalez. No. As a player, he ain't Tony Gonzalez as a good-looking model type guy or whatever. He just ain't that guy, and so he kind of dresses up in clown outfits, and the CBS show is but. No, I'm going to stand on this. I think it's a compliment what I'm saying about their show. I actually enjoy it. It's not a show that I tolerate. It's one that I enjoy. And, given the fact that I can't stand Richard Sherman, he's a woke Northern California leftist. But I like him on this show.
He grew up in Compton, though.
I really do.
He's from Compton, though. He's a Southern California guy, but I get it.
Yeah, he was Stanford or whatever. Didn't he go to Stanford? And next thing you know, you get a Stanford degree, and everybody's supposed to forget that, he probably had a 900 SAT and would have never got into Stanford.
Oh, come on. They don't lower the standards at that school, Jason. Well, no, not that much.
Hey, look. Anyway, let me keep it moving here, Steve. I want to read you this tweet from RG3 on Justin Herbert, who threw 4 interceptions and was the primary reason the Chargers lost. The national media better hold Justin Herbert accountable for his playoff performances like they do to Lamar Jackson and Dak Prescott. I read this and I go, holy cow, here we go. Just stirring up racial division the best he can. I guess that's his job. Justin Herbert was bad, but Lamar Jackson's got 2 MVP trophies. He's seems to be perhaps headed to a third. He's the most worshiped guy in the NFL. Everybody's afraid to really criticize him in any way. Not that he even deserves much criticism at this point. And Dak Prescott's making $60 million a year. He's the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. And yes, he does get criticized, but Justin Herbert's at the beginning of his career, first season with Jim Harbaugh. This fell flat, and this was just RG3 pandering for racial engagement.
Well, he wanted his barbecue cookout pass back. So, he had to put out the obligatory whataboutism. But with that said, Jason, this is something that my beloved partner on 3 Knockdown Rule, Mario Lopez, and I argue about all the time. I believe Justin Herbert shrinks in the big moments. I think a lot of his stats are empty calories. And look, most of his career is still in front of him. Harbaugh, I believe, can take him to big things. But the one thing I've noticed about Herbert is that he loses a lot of games that are up in the air in the last 4 minutes when he has the ball. That performance on Saturday, I'm watching the beginning of the game, Jason. The first, I would say, 10 minutes, C.J. Stroud is trying to give this game to the Chargers. I mean, he's trying to give this game away to a point. I'm thinking, is he point shaving? But you know who really gave it away right back? Justin Herbert. And I said, that's a terrible performance. So for that part of the equation, I do not disagree with RG3. Now, my view is this. In 4 to 5 years, if this pattern continues with Herbert and he does not make deep playoff runs, I do think that maybe there's more validity. But yes, I do believe there is some race peddling and pandering taking place right now by RG3.
Well, my whole problem is that if Justin Herbert is a flop, the media is going to cover it. They're going to delight in covering it. There's nothing better to do, like Ryan Clark beating up on Aaron Rodgers. People love that. And, going after some alleged powerful and or rich white person, there's nothing but bonus points in that for everybody. It's the easiest thing in the world. So oh my God, are they going to do? Well, if they do them like Dak and Lamar, you're going to pander to them and make excuses for everything that they do. That's what has been the case for Lamar and Dak.
Well, Jason, it's that old saying. What's that got to do with the price of tea in China? You're right, nothing. The other thing is, Jason, as I look at some of these NFL pundits and these lists of quarterbacks, I don't see anyone saying that Herbert's the best guy or even in the top 3. They don't. It's always Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, and you could say who else is 3 through 5. But those two are generally considered, and Josh Allen, who, by the way, Josh Allen, he is getting heat for not having a Super Bowl run under his belt, and he's actually won a few playoff games. So, RG3, he knew what he was doing, and there was a stated agenda for it.
I'm going to wait until tomorrow to talk about the Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson matchup this weekend, the Race Bowl. That I'm sure Ryan Clark's in the gym right now. I'm going to wait till tomorrow to get into that. So make sure you circle back tomorrow. But before I want to move on, though, to A.J. Brown, wide receiver for the Philadelphia Eagles. Allegedly has problems with Jalen Hurts and feels like he should be doing more for the Eagles offense. He was caught on the sidelines reading a book. And people kind of made a big deal of it. In real time, I was like, well, what's the book? I don't know if I have a problem. And I'm going to criticize an athlete reading a book on the sidelines. Half the stuff these athletes do on the sidelines annoys the heck out of me. Reading a book is not on that list. And I didn't know what he was. Maybe he was reading the autobiography of Malcolm X and he's going to translate it for LeBron James. That would have been awesome. But A.J. Brown offered up an explanation, he offered it up to a reporter, and he's wide receiver A.J. Brown handed me a beaten-up paperback copy of Inner Excellence, full of handwritten notes and highlighted sections. He has it with him every game, and you can tell it's been knocked off benches. on sidelines week after week. Brown then showed me the passage he reads between drives. It calms his mind. He was kind enough to share it, so here you go. This was on social media. I buy this entire explanation, and I hat tip A.J. Brown for looking for ways, positive ways, to channel his emotions. Do you buy this explanation?
I do, and I give him a lot of credit as someone who reads books vociferously nowadays and buys them. I like the fact he's still reading a physical book and not a Kindle. I really do respect that. And someone posted some pages where he actually has highlighted passages. So unlike LeBron James, he's gotten past page one. He's actually disseminating the information and actually digesting it. I think it's interesting about A.J. Brown. There has been this underlying tension that people have reported about with him and Jalen Hurts. And I look at his numbers. He's still an elite receiver. He's still incredibly productive. But I guess there's a theory that receivers could never be completely satisfied. But I actually thought it was interesting that he had a book, and it was something pretty intellectual. So my suggestion would be, if he gets to the Super Bowl, try Social Justice Fallacies by Thomas Sowell. I think you'll find that book fascinating. I'm about to finish it up. I'm on my last 10 pages. You can get on Amazon, AJ.
Yeah, again, hat tip to A.J. Brown. I think it's very positive. I think athletes, and we'll get into this later in the week, probably not with Steve, but with T.J. Moe and maybe some of the ministers, but athletes are looking for unique ways to deal with the stress, the abundance of financial gifts that they're being blessed with. Many of them, I think, are leaning into their faith. I think A.J. Brown here is leading into reading and wisdom derived from books. And I just give him credit. Anything that's not some dance move, not some new gold chain that they brought out onto the field, I'm all for, and think it's a positive. So,
well, Jason,
go ahead.
This is a city that had to go through the TO experience in 2004 and 5. So if I was going to ask that organization, would you rather have T.O., who I love, by the way, as a player, but you knew what he was about. He was about T.O., get your popcorn ready. And eventually he was going to have a very public spectacle with his quarterback. And we saw how it went sideways with Donovan McNabb. It ended with him doing sit-ups in his front lawn the next offseason. You could make an argument whether you agree or disagree with a player reading a book during a game. That is much more disruptive, less disruptive than what Terrell Owens would do.
I want to stick with Philadelphia and another athlete who's maybe turning into my favorite football player playing right now, Saquon Barkley, running back for the Philadelphia Eagles, has a big game. The Eagles win 22-10. Saquon plays a great game. And at the end, he had a chance to rip off potentially another 80-yard touchdown run. Instead, he slid down. Fantasy players are upset with him. Maybe it hurts their prize pick or over/under, who knows, or maybe who knows what it affected, but people are upset. I love it. I think it speaks once again, this guy is all into doing what's best for his team. He set out week 17 or week 18, the final game of the season, when he could have gone after Eric Dickerson's record. I've read the reporting where, hey, it was a tough decision. People in his family were upset and hey, man, you should play and get that record that has value. And Saquon stuck with his guns, stuck with the decision that was best for his team. Maybe had some mixed feelings, but still, in my view, did the right thing. This is another example of him once again doing the right thing and not doing what's best for Saquon Barkley. And I'm really starting to believe Saquon Barkley may be our modern-day Walter Payton, one of the best high-character guys playing professional sports we have going. Here's Saquon's explanation of why he slid late in that game.
Lit up? No mas, situational football, first down ends the game. You never know. I break that long run, I keep running, I pull a hammy, or someone's chasing me, they pull a hammy, and we lose the guy for next week. Get down, put a smile on your face, and move on. That's the thing that matters most.
Steve, I'm telling you, I love this guy, and I don't think I'm going too far. He may be our modern-day Walter Payton.
I mean, he gets it, and there's no doubt. As I look at that offense scuffle in the throw game with Jalen Hurts, who, again, may be rusty, he has to be the foundation of that offense. And moving forward, if I'm Nick Sirianni, whose job seemed to be on the line regardless of the results, no matter how many wins they have, he needs to get the ball 25 to 30 times moving forward for them to lift that Lombardi trophy. Jason, you bring up Walter Payton, who seriously was one of the great men in modern professional sports. But I still remember, and everyone's human, when they won the Super Bowl in the 1985 season, it was late January of 86. I'm sure you recall, though, even in that blowout was 46-10, Walter Payton was very upset he didn't score a touchdown. He was very, very peeved at Mike Ditka that he gave the ball to Walter Payton at the 1 yard line, and he felt as though, hey, as a tribute to me, after all I've done, I need to be able to score in this particular game. And even though it was the crowning achievement of his career, a great moment for the Bears and the city of Chicago, I've read and I've actually seen documentaries where the PR staff had to beg Walter to not get angry and actually come out and do interviews because he was about to boycott that doggone thing. So everybody has their limits as a human being.
Steve, I got to give you something you weren't prepared for, but we got to react in real time. That's the beauty of being on live. Mike McCarthy, according to reports, he's out in Dallas.
Lucky him.
No more Mike McCarthy to kick around in Dallas for Jerry Jones and Cowboys fans. This is interesting on multiple levels because I saw our man RG3 actually made a decent analogy trying to come back from his stupid Justin Herbert tweet, and he analogized Mike McCarthy and Mike Tomlin. That, hey, McCarthy won a Super Bowl in Green Bay and has won Super Bowl just like Mike Tomlin. He's had some very successful regular seasons, but has struggled in the postseason. The Dallas Cowboys move on from Mike McCarthy. What did he get? 4 Did he get 4 years here in Dallas? Did he get 3 years here in Dallas? Let me do the
Well, they won
math
12
on
games
this,
3 years in a row, Jason, so I think he got at least 4.
Yeah, and so obviously I think this is the right decision, and Dallas isn't sitting there as you love to tell people, well, who are they going to get who's better than Mike McCarthy? Well, they're going to go try to find someone better than Mike McCarthy. Steve, your thoughts?
First of all, my voice isn't that high. You need to work on that impersonation. You're not exactly Black Frank Caliendo. Good grief. All right, couple things. There's a very similar arc between McCarthy and Tomlin. They won Super Bowls early in their runs, amassed a lot of regular season victories, and recently their postseason success simply has not been there. If I am Mike McCarthy, the job that I'm looking for and the organization that I believe kind of needs a guy like him is the Chicago Bears. They have a young quarterback that I thought the stats did not really reflect some of the struggles that he had. Caleb Williams needs to be with a quarterback or an offensive guru that's going to settle him and turn him into a more bona fide National Football League quarterback. And if you look at his history, had great success with Rodgers. He had some good years with Dak Prescott. I think that's a pretty good fit for both parties.
I just want to warn the audience that everything that Steve says is not a reflection of my thoughts or the direction of this show.
Okay.
And so I just want to put that disclaimer out there. You're already pitching him for his next job. You have an opportunity to talk about you could be talking about what could fix the Dallas Cowboys. Instead, you want to talk about, Chicago Bears, they should retread. They should retread Mike McCarthy one more time.
I'm going to say this again.
McCarthy had 5 years in Dallas. Go ahead.
As my good friend Ock Nation says, there are no solutions. All right. As soon as Jerry Jones made it clear after the last game, well, I'm going to blame the general manager. of the Dallas Cowboys. That's it. There are no solutions. That is the problem. There is no solutions. You're not bringing in Belichick. You're not going to reincarnate the great Jimmy Johnson. You're not bringing out the ghost of Tom Landry. Okay? You're going to get another guy that's going to be very compliant to Jerry Jones on those weekly press conferences where he acts like he knows football, and you're stuck with a couple of really exorbitant contracts, and you're stuck. So that's my answer. There are no solutions in Dallas currently. There.
Okay, so there's no solutions in Dallas, but you got to have a head coach. Who is Deion Sanders on the phone right now with the Cowboys trying to work? They said he was interested in the Raiders job, but the Raiders maybe aren't interested in him. It sounds like they want Ben Johnson. If you're Deion Sanders, do you consider consider Dallas? What?
Now, you mentioned a name in Ben Johnson. Now, there's a young go-getter that is going places. If you were to ask me, Steve, Ben Johnson or Coach Prime, Ben. I'm Ben all the way. That's not even a question to me.
Yeah,
but
Ben Johnson doesn't want the Cowboys. He doesn't want Jerry meddling.
Thank you. That's because he listens to Fearless and Steve Kim. That's why he knows. Now, in terms of what Dallas and what Jerry wants, which is the splash, which is the glitz and the glamour, yes, it fits. And by the way, just like Joy Taylor, it'd be great for us. It'd be great for. So yes, Coach Prime to Dallas. Let's make Jerry, do it, please, for us and our audience.
Are you saying that in all seriousness?
Yes.
Are you saying that
like a heart attack? Yes. I want to see it. Fine. If Jerry wants to get the regular average garden variety coach, I get it. You want to have something that's going to be fun and intriguing and a great storyline that we could just beat to death like a rented mule? Yes. Coach Prime to, in fact, you know what? Make a trade up, trade Micah Parsons for a bunch of draft choices to get Shador. Now, oh God, that's the thing. There you go, right there.
You got this whole thing on Shador wrong. Didn't I tell you? I tried to tell you this. Maybe it was on the conference call. What Shador doesn't have that kind of leverage. Wherever the Cowboys are drafting, they'll be in position to take Shador Sanders. If let's say the Cowboys are drafting,
I'm with you, but quarterbacks are now overdrafted. Even in bad quarterback classes, they are overdrafted. And I still remember about 8-9 years ago, Jerry Jones had to be talked out of Johnny Football. And they ended up taking a lineman that became a perennial Pro Bowler. But only one owner would say, well, I like that Johnny Football. Yeah, you were about the only one outside the Browns. How'd that work out? So, yes, let's see this. Let's have this doomsday scenario play out.
Here's the only leverage Shador has. And it's Deion. And it's like LeBron with Bronny. No one was drafting Bronny other than the Lakers.
Okay.
And so Deion would make it very crystal clear that my son ain't showing up. He's only going to show up to play in a Cowboys uniform. And so the Cowboys can draft Shador mid-first round, mid-second round, mid-third round. They're going to have Shador wherever they want him. Deion's ego will require, and I don't know where the Cowboys are at in the draft rotation. They went 7-10, so they're probably somewhere drafting around 18.
Teens. Yeah, late teens.
Yeah. And so the Cowboys could take Shador. Deion would have his boy. They could. Oh my God, the Cowboys have the 12th pick. Yeah, very easy to take Shador. And so Dallas draft picks 2025. Dallas expects to have 10 picks, 16. Anyway, yeah, they could take Shador at number 12. They could try to move on from Dak Prescott if anybody would take him in his monster contract. And that seems like the ideal scenario. I guarantee you Deion wants out of Colorado. There was that rumor that, again, he was interested in the Raiders job. I think he'd have to be interested in the Cowboys job. And I can already hear, I guarantee you, there's going to be a bunch of people, Stephen A., Shannon Sharp, a bunch of people in the media campaigning for Deion to take over the Cowboys job. One, it would be box office. It would give us plenty to talk about, and it maybe even it's just a smart move. Deion would put up with Jerry, and then if Deion has any success, he'd end up having more leverage than Jerry. Maybe it's a match made in heaven and hell for Deion and Jerry. Both these guys love attention, love to be the center of spotlight, and I do think Deion would eventually, and maybe in year one, overshadow Jerry Jones.
And Jason, for the record, let's clarify this. Shedeur Sanders is not Bronny James. I get it. Look, we know Shedeur.
Are you sure?
Yes. Come on. Bronny would literally be drafted by one team. Shedeur would be drafted. We just don't. Me and you personally, I think we agree with this. He really should not be a top 10 pick, and I think that word is growing throughout the league as you really put on the tape. But again, he's probably a guy. In fact, I know he's a guy that is considered at least among the top 25 to 30 players in this upcoming draft. Huge difference between those two.
I've got one last topic, and then I'm going to let you go. I know you got somewhere to go, but I got to squeeze this in. Joy Taylor in 2022 had some interesting comments on Jeff Saturday. And I think these did not age very well, or these comments didn't age very well. Let's play the full clip. Here's Joy Taylor talking about Jeff Saturday getting the interim head coaching job with the Indianapolis Colts midway through the season.
Whether Jeff Saturday is successful or not does not diminish the fact that the way he got this job was ridiculous and embarrassing and disrespectful to everyone else in the organization. Everyone doesn't feel great about this hire in the organization. What it says to everyone around the NFL, by the way, not just in-house, is that your hard work doesn't matter. What you put in doesn't matter. You could show up every day. You could get here early. You could leave late. You could put in years, blood, sweat, and tears. And if I have a better relationship with this guy, he's going to get the job over you. Remember that. And believe me, that message is received when you do things like this. So it's not about if Jeff Saturday wins a game over the Raiders or not. It's about the message that you send about hard work and how it pays off in your organization. And good people that have options don't go to organizations like that because they want to know they have upward mobility. They want to know that their hard work is going to be rewarded and respected. And what the Colts did, said, hard work doesn't matter, honey. Relationships do. Sorry about it. And everyone's doubling down on it now. And remember, since we're doing receipts, I'm going to keep those too. Because if you don't have to have requirements, if you don't have to have a resume to get a job, keep that same energy the next time a black coach is up for a job. I don't want to hear a word about what experience he has. What, does he call in plays? Jeff Saturday sure wasn't calling no plays. Right. He made that very clear. I am delegating all responsibility except for cheers and motivational speeches to everyone on this staff. So keep that same energy about calling plays. And here's my favorite part about this while I'm ranting. Keeping receipts. The next time a woman's up for a job, I don't want to hear about the experience that she needs to have it.
Okay.
Because I already know she's excellent if she's getting the interview in the first place. So all you are loud and tweeting and celebrating this whole thing and celebrating the fact that you don't need certain kind of accomplishments or resume to get a job, keep that same energy, please.
What you just saw was a 2-minute rant on why I'm hesitant to do a show with a woman because they're going to sit there and say that kind of stuff, and you cannot counter with the truth, the facts. You can't do it. You just have to sit there and nod your head like those guys.
Cook. Yeah.
Let Joy cook. Yes.
Yeah.
You have to sit there and do all that. And again, I just pretty hypocritical, Jason, particularly in hindsight. Your thoughts?
That poor white guy, he can't disagree with anyone on that set. I mean, gosh. Anyway, this, by the way, just a little side note. I went shopping this weekend to the local grocery store. I went to the condiment section. I saw Skippy now being served in cans. But anyway, so as I listened to that, diatribe, okay, there's that meme that you always see on Twitter when someone says something and there's that old cartoon thing, a few moments later. First of all, she is incredibly naive about the whole job. Nobody wanted that interim tag with the. In fact, nobody wants interim jobs. And we're talking about earlier, Jason, how black coaches are now 1-year rentals to satisfy the Rooney Rule or as a way out. Guess what? A lot of coaches don't want the stain of going 1-8 on a team that's a sinking ship. There's nobody on the Titanic that said after the iceberg, hey, I'll be the captain. I'll run the ship. No, nobody. Everyone's looking to get off the boat. Everyone's looking to get the lifeboat, okay? But the other thing she said, where I'm just thinking, do you actually know anything about ball? Head coaches generally do not call plays. Most of them do not. There are very few. What they do in terms of leadership is delegation. A lot of them basically do we go for it on 4th down or going for it on 2 minutes? Hey, hurry up tempo. Or, hey, I want a timeout. Not a lot of them actually call plays. And the whole thing about the irony, I thought that was strange that she brought up women out of that whole thing about don't question women. Again, a few moments later. Huh.
Let me add a different cut, different layer to what she doesn't understand about head coaching, particularly in football, is the head coach actually coaches the assistant coaches.
Yeah.
That's the primary job. And so her argument is kind of like, hey, you always say that did the guy call plays as an offensive defensive coordinator, and that helps build his resume that he's qualified to be the head coach. And a lot of times what that means in reality is if you have called plays on the offensive or defensive side of the ball, when you become a head coach, you can then go into the offensive coordinator's room when he's and help him solve problems. And hey, what plays should we call in this situation, that situation, when we think they're going to give us this defensive scheme? And so I can remember years ago, do you remember Gunther Cunningham and his years with the Kansas City Chiefs? No, Gunther was a defensive coordinator with the Chiefs.
Oh, coordinator, right.
Under Marty Schottenheimer, defensive coordinator. And he used to talk about like how Marty could come in the room, and Gunther was a very good defensive coordinator during that stretch in Kansas City. Marty would come in the room and help him solve problems because Marty was a great defensive mind and came up on that defensive side of the ball. Andy Reid, he basically coordinates the whole offense, but if Matt Nagy or Eric Bieniemy or whoever was struggling implementing the offensive scheme during the week, Andy Reid can come in and help those guys get through that process. These great head coaches are great at coaching their coaches. And that's a unique skill. You can be as talented as, let's say you're in the broadcasting industry. Let's say you're me. I'm not a great coach of the other players. I can do my job, but I'm not the greatest coach of the other players. Yeah. And so not everybody's built to be the head coach. And that's what people don't understand. Some people are built to be coordinators, position coaches, but we want everybody to be the head coach.
Yeah, I mean, Jason, I was thinking about Frank Gans. He was the special teams coach, and I remember the Chiefs actually gave him the head coaching spot. I think it was a couple years before he got to Kansas City. It didn't work out. And I think Gunther actually got a shot, and that didn't work out. There's a great story. So when Bill Belichick was a young coordinator for the Giants under Bill Parcells, Parcells would peek his head into the office every week and go, all right, what do you geniuses have planned? And they'd go, and Bill would say, okay, try to make it work. But let's be honest. Anyone that coached under Bill Walsh was running his offense, the West Coast offense. Now, eventually over time, guys like Shanahan, the older one, Mike Shanahan, and then it was Mike Holmgren, they called plays. Now, there were times, though, when Bill Walsh would intervene and say, guys, we're going to do this. I am still the head coach. Going back to Joy Taylor, I remember a couple years ago, Dan Campbell did this funny thing where he wore a motorcycle helmet. I think it was from charity at the press conference. She absolutely ripped this guy, basically said he was a clown. He wasn't serious. It's not funny. And I just wonder, and I get it, he was not the guy that he is now. But would you have said that if it was a minority or black coach? I have my doubts. I have my opinions. But Dan Campbell turned out to be more than just a guy who's funny or trying to be a clown.
And if you look at what's going on in Detroit, he appears to be a great coach of other coaches, seems to know how to set up an environment where Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson can do their best work. That's a unique skill.
Wait a minute. Did I just hear Jason Whitlock getting on the Motor City Dan Campbell bandwagon? You know what? I'm going to scoot over. Take a seat right here, buddy. I've been waiting for you for a couple of years, but I'm still driving. I'm an Asian. Put on your seatbelt. But congratulations. Welcome. Welcome aboard.
Yeah, and so, and the other thing, just giving Dan Campbell his full credit, he has this mentality and approach that seems to make these guys believe we can overcome anything. Oh, half our defensive players are on injured reserve? No problem. Next man up. That's a tone and a mentality that's been set by the head coach. Anyway, wanted to give Joy her love and just, this is where I was saying, this is circle all the way back to what we said about the Amazon Prime show. Joy Taylor is not playing that host role. She's an opinionist just like everybody else. She's way out over her skis. We now understand how she got that job and how she got put out that far over her skis. Whereas a Carissa Thompson is trying to put these guys in position so that they can say interesting things, fun things. She's not in there trying to mix it up with the opinions and all that. She's trying to draw the best out of these guys. It's a very unique skill to be able to get the best out of the people you're working around. It's a selfless position.
Yeah.
Carissa's doing it well. Joy Taylor got fed a bunch of gas that she could do what all the opinionists does, blown up in her face. She looks kind of silly. It is what it is. Steve, I got to let you go. Got to get to Shemeka. We'll see you tomorrow. Before I go, though, I do want to tell you it's playoff time. For Prize Picks, it's the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in award-winning Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. It's playoff time, and it's now or never. Don't miss out on the last few weeks of football action with Prize Picks, the best place to win cash while watching the playoffs. Prize Picks now offers MasterCard for quick and easy deposits into your account this sports season. Now let's see what Mama Whitlock's picks are.
Mama Whitlock, what's your lineup? Mama Whitlock, what's your lineup? Pick more, pick less. Run your game, you gotta be fearless. Lock it in. Mama Whitlock, what's your lineup? Prize Picks.
All right. You know my mother's a huge football fan, likes to get a little extra cash on the side. Tonight's NFC wildcard matchup, here's her picks. Aaron Jones, more than 60.5 rushing yards. I kind of like that. It's been a good weekend for running backs. Could be a good performance for Aaron Jones. Joshua Carty, more than 1.5 field goals made. She's saying he's going to kick 2 field goals. Not bad. Matthew Stafford, more than 242.5 passing yards. A little suspect on that pick, but we shall see. Sign up today and get a $50 instantly when you play just $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use the promo code FEARLESS and get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. Shemeka Michelle. Next. Welcome to Extra Fearless with Jason Whitlock. I am Jason Whitlock, your host. Oh my God, Lyndon Johnson, his thoughts are so disgusting. I can't believe you would engage with him. The celebration for being a slut have never been greater. Why do you choose Taylor Swift, and why do you pick up a role as, let me help my woman undress on stage in front of an audience?
When I look at people like Sexy Red or Cardi B that we prop up, now I see that the white community as well is just as fried.
It does look to me like he made some eye contact with her and then just decided, nah, let me move on. The BET Awards seems like a psyop at this point. It's just Democratic brainwashing. Get in there and fight for all the things. Steve, that's it for you. I'm done. All right, welcome back. Shemeka Michelle, welcome to the show. I want to close out the show, Shemeka, talking about my man, Stephen A. Smith. He's making the rounds on all these conservative podcasts and shows, walking back his support of Kamala Harris and the Democrat Party. Maybe I'm just being petty. I don't like it. Maybe I just need to let it go, but I just don't like it. I saw him on with Dave Rubin, talking about this stuff, and I'm like, how's everybody interviewing this guy without talking to him about, hey man, you're a fraud. Why are we as conservatives helping sell this fraud? But maybe it's my own little personal pet peeve, and I just need to let it go. But I'm about to get your thoughts on it. Stephen A., I want to play a couple of different clips here, but this is Stephen A. talking about why he didn't vote for Donald Trump. Play SOT number 11.
I tip my hat to the Republicans, to the conservatives out here and what they did in this last election. Again, I did not vote for Donald Trump. Unlike people that suddenly turned around and kissing his ring and trying to feign like they're suddenly a supporter of his. No, I did not vote for him, but I got to tell you something. I'm not mad he won. You know what I'm saying? I'm not mad he won because when I see, especially in the aftermath of the election, some of the things that transpired with the Democratic Party, in an effort to manipulate the election and the vote, it really ticked me off. You can't sit up there standing on your pedestal, pretending to be paragons of virtue and pointing out all that ails our country because of the conservatives and the right, and then turn around and provide all the ammunition in the world for us to look at you and say, how are you much different?
We'll start there. Your reaction to that?
Jason, it is annoying, and I can't blame Stephen A. Smith for being a grifter, for chasing the bag, for going after what he think will benefit him over the next 4 years. Who I blame is the conservatives. And it's so annoying because it's like they don't believe their own message, right? If you truly believed what you said, you wouldn't be out here panting over Black conservatives like dogs. It's almost as if they said, we got another one. We got another person that believes what we said, and it is so annoying because they don't vet these people. And Stephen A. Smith is skinning and grinning. He doesn't even believe it because he just went on his own show constantly saying, I voted for Kamala. I just want to make it clear that I voted for Kamala. He's too scared to actually stand on what he believes, which makes me feel like he doesn't believe anything. And I can remember leading up to the 2020 election, we had all of these Black conservative influencers that, jumped on the bandwagon after Trump won in 2016. And conservatives were just taking them in, so much so that we had this one so-called urban MAGA influencer who was allegedly spreading HIV. Then he ended up in the hospital, and conservatives just started throwing money his way. They had a GoFundMe. He raised thousands of dollars, and then they claimed he died. Then there was a story that came out that said he didn't die. It was just a money grab. So it's like they do this every time. And obviously this is Trump's last term. So, you know, this is just them kind of preparing for the next 4 years. But this is what happened. We saw all of these Black conservatives leading up to 2020, and then they were gone. It's like when he was up, they were down. But then when he was down, they were out. And now we're seeing the same cycle this time, that people are now jumping on the Trump train because they know he's going to be in office for the next 4 years. And conservatives who claim they have the best message for God, family, and country, just take them all in and get railroaded each and every time.
So what should we do? Because I do think there are some genuine people that have had their eyes open. The reason it bothers me so much about Stephen A. Smith is I don't think there's anything genuine about him. And I've explained all of that on this show in great detail, that his whole background is a fabrication, his whole back narrative is a fabrication. He's just been cold busted on all of this. And so my disappointment is like, hey, fine, you want to do an interview with him, and yeah, do an interview with him, but ask him some like difficult questions. How come this wasn't obvious to you? I mean, where's your 50 some odd years old? At some, you claim a religious Christian faith. And this is my question to a lot of people. It's like, where's your discernment? If you're a Christian, you've lived X number of years, how can you be this easily fooled? And because this is what just bothers me. I just don't buy the, oh, now I get it because Trump won. That's finger in the air, wind is blowing a certain direction, and if I'm going to make money, if I want to prevent ESPN from hiring someone who represents MAGA's point of view, ESPN's like, Stephen A., go out there and you pretend to be that guy. Now, we ran Will Cain up out of here because we didn't want that guy here. So now it's your job to pretend to be that guy. That's what I think I see and hear from Stephen A. Smith. Let me play a second clip from Stephen A., and then I'll get your reaction. Let's play SOT number 12.
I hate to admit it, they make a lot of sense. They make a lot of sense because I'm here, I'm pulling up to the gas station, the price of gas. I go to the supermarket for myself. I'm not one of those dudes that just send people to go. I go. Yeah. I know what the price of milk is. I know what the price of eggs are. I know these things. Yeah. I pump my own gas unless my guy is with me, my security. I pump my own gas. You know, I see the prices of this stuff. I'm like, what the hell is this? You know, and so I look at things from that standpoint, and when you hear people talking about practical things, and then I saw folks on the left basically trying to guilt me into voting for you. You know, it bothered me. I might have ended up voting for Kamala Harris because I didn't like how Trump acts. But what I didn't do was call him a racist. I didn't call him a Nazi. I knew Trump before he ran for president. Yeah. We talked on the phone. We talk at basketball games or boxing events. I knew this man. And so some of the things that were being said about him, I knew were not true. And I was saying, come on, y'all, you got to do better than that. And I look at all of those things, and all of those things contributed to my ultimate move to Florida, because I said it's time to think about me more and stop being guilted into looking at things through their lens. And that's where I'm at.
You buying the Stephen A's going to the grocery store, pumping his own gas? You buying this?
Jason, what I have a problem with is you didn't see how high the gas prices were before November 5th. You didn't see what the price of groceries were before November 5th, because he kept saying, we need to vote for Kamala. We need to vote for Kamala. And now this whole thing as if I'm okay with Trump winning because I saw the prices for myself. You didn't see him before November 5th. Instead of Pinocchio, like the nose growing, I hope every time he turns a lie, his hairline falls back even further. By the time we finish in the next couple months, he should be completely bald because we know that he's lying. Again, he's just trying to stake out a position for the next 4 years. And do you have the other clip where he was talking about he felt pressure from the community and he was misinformed? You're not a 90-year-old woman sitting watching CNN all day. You have information at your fingertips. I know he has the latest iPhone. Look it up. You work in an office, pull it up. I'm not buying that you were misinformed. And after what we saw, how he treated Kyrie Irving, I'm just not open to him. I do not think he's authentic. I think he's jumping on the bandwagon. He is what you all say, a Monday morning quarterback or whatever. I just don't believe it because you had to have seen signs before November 5th. People who actually wanted to go out and vote reasonably. They were interested in looking at different information. They were paying attention to what was happening. It's not like Elon Musk took over Twitter on November 6th. We've had access to other information for at least 2 years now. And so Stephen A. Smith is just lying. This is another 6-inch screw. This is another, I made all of these 3-pointers. It's BS, and it bothers me that people are buying it.
So what should we do as conservative influencers or whatever, or Trump supporters or whatever? Should everybody that didn't see what we saw, should we just banish all of them, or what? What would you need to hear from a Stephen A. Smith to go, I think this is authentic?
I welcome everyone, right? Because that is what we want people to believe the message. We want people to come in and realize that conservative values are the way to go. So get on the train, but sit in the back. This ushering them to the front, letting them drive, letting them tell no, sit in the back and let's make sure they are tried and true and not just trying and looking for a come up. That's what I don't like. And I don't like that Stephen A. Smith is saying these things here in hindsight when all of this information was out November 4th, November 3rd, you had all of this information. So to now act like you've had some great epiphany, I just don't buy it. So you can be here. Thank you. Let's see how you vote in 2 years. Let's see how you vote next presidential election. But I just don't think I want to see him on every conservative platform acting as if he did not go as hard as he did against conservatives and against any type of conservative value. This was the same man that was saying if we didn't go out and get vaccinated, we didn't love our family. We wanted to kill mother. We should, not be allowed to eat in certain restaurants and go where we wanted to go. He condemned Kyrie Irving, called him, ignorant or no. We just should, turn the other cheek, I guess, but turn it and make sure this man stays silent. We just should not be open to this foolery at this point.
Here's what I would say, Dave Rubin, Patrick Bet-David, whoever interviews Stephen A. Smith next, Mark Levin, Sean Hannity or whatever. Hey, man, talk to me about the pressure there is to carry that woke Democratic narrative when you work for Disney and ESPN. Do the higher ups come down on you if you say anything that might be against the Democrat progressive movement? If I were to hear him talk about that, and I know that's an impossibility, but that's what would sound authentic to me. Is like, hey, Dave, you just don't understand the pressure that you're under at ESPN. They're paying me $12, $13, $14 million. I'm negotiating right now for a $20 million contract. All of that gets jeopardized if I say, hey, man, I think Donald Trump actually is a better alternative for us. And he goes, that could hurt my bottom line and paycheck. And so I sat silent because of the employer I work for. Hey, I can't talk about men coming into women's sports and say these things. I couldn't do it. It was too high risk and it would cost me money, and so I didn't do it. I'm work at a place where I have to either be quiet or toe the line on some of these really divisive political issues. And so that's why I did what I did. Till I hear that, I'm just not buying it.
Absolutely.
I'm just not buying it. And I don't understand. This is just a common sense approach to, and I don't understand why these people that are interviewing Stephen A. Smith can't put him in a spot where he has to answer those questions. Instead, we're putting him in there like, hey, he's one of the good guys. Yes, he voted for Kamala, but wink, wink, he's really with us. And, you know, I kind of sense that, Stephen A., that you wish that you could vote. Well, we're living in a time where if a man does not have the balls to stand on what he truly believes, that's not a man. And he's unworthy of any respect. And we're living in a time where it's time for real men. And I want to be careful. I want to be careful, but, you know, I'm putting too much of a burden on Dave Rubin to do that. That's not his role. You know, I don't, this is for really based men. And men who know exactly who they are, men who know they're not here on this earth to please and pleasure themselves, to do what makes them happy. We're here to fear God and obey his commandments. And so that's where I would like to see somebody base stand toe-to-toe with any of these people and make them, you know, like, no, let's put some skin in the game. Let's really ante up here. Let's look up under the hood and see what you're really standing on. And right now you're not standing on too much. You're out here grifting and you want to be the liberal guy that conservatives respect. I've seen it go on with Bill Maher, that we all want to throw Bill Maher flowers. And I used to be one of those guys that halfway liked Bill Maher, and then I fully understood the wickedness of Bill Maher. And it's like, there's parts of his show that I enjoy, but full respect, no. And I'll end it on this note. I don't want y'all to think the Bill Maher thing is personal, but I do want to be transparent. I've had people that wanted me to get on Bill Maher's HBO show, wanted me to get on Club Random, and all of a sudden, oh, Bill wants to. I was like, Bill Maher wants no parts of talking with me. That's not allowed at HBO. And I've had people very close to him that's involved in, oh, no, we're going to have you. HBO is not going to allow that. They don't allow Negroes like me on their platform, period, end of story. And there's such an objection to Negroes like me, they're not going to let me on his Club Random show inside of his house. I'm not that Negro. Yeah, go. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you hit the nail on the head, because that's what it would take for me, I think, as well, to accept what Stephen A. Smith is saying, the truth, and to actually blame it on the Black community, saying that, you know, he felt pressure from the community is a cop-out. That's weak. You're the same man that claimed that you ran with gang members. So tell me how it is you don't have a spine and a backbone to actually stand 10 toes down and say what you feel. So I agree with you, Jason. That's what it would take for me. And he's lying, and everybody should be upset that he wants to blame it on the community. That is some weak, wussy, LDE. I don't appreciate it at all. To say, oh, I couldn't stand up to my community is weak. It had nothing to do with the Black community. It had everything to do with the people over him, Disney, and his lords at ESPN. That's exactly what it was, Jason, and you spoke the truth.
Thank you. That's it, and that's all for us. We'll play tomorrow. We'll see you tomorrow.
Waiting for the countdown, coming off the breakdown, standing in line for freedom. Looking for a breakout, feeling like a standoff, nothing in life like freedom. Came like a fighter, striking like a ladder, making all these moves for freedom. I want freedom. No negotiation, my sister, no relation. We all just wanna have freedom. Sitting on a corner, never been alone. I'll break my back for freedom. Blessed, we are living, get back. We are receiving, no deceiving. We all wanna be free. We want freedom. I just want, I wanna be. I just want, I wanna be. I just want, I wanna be. I just want.